All right, shalom. This is Gene Keener with SYMF Yeshua Messianic Fellowship, and welcome to our Wednesday haLakhah class. We meet here every Wednesday at 6 o'clock California time, and we're going to cover a course on haLakhah. haLakhah means the walk, and I'll get into that in more detail as we start. Today is the intro. This is how we're going to begin. Actually, this is going to be a little bit convoluted because, well, I kind of have to say this up front. My vision has not been doing well. Matter of fact, I need to have a surgery next Wednesday, and it's going to be pretty substantial. I'm going to have a big old eye patch for a day or two on my left eye, and my right eye I can barely see any detail. So, having said that, for today I'm going to just start the basics on what is haLakhah, and probably when I get back, we're going to have to be dark next week because that's the date of my surgery, and hopefully, God willing, I'll be able to get back to it the week after, but I'll have to let you know. But in the meantime, um, like, subscribe, tell others about this channel, and hit the bell button if you um, want to be notified when we go live. And if you like us, you can you can also support the channel and the congregation through our website at simchatyeshua.org. That's SIMCHATYESHUA. And we also have a Facebook page, for now anyways, a Facebook page, Simchat Yeshua. So far they haven't bothered with us at all. I suspect we're entirely too small potatoes to be worth their notice at the moment, but make a short story long, we'll see. So I wanted to wait another minute or so, just in case somebody's going to come straggling in a little bit late. But and again, for those of you who are hanging out at the congregation, I've been having trouble with my eyes. There are diabetic changes, and the quality of my vision's gone south. And I've been doing okay, holding it off, making things work. But the last couple of weeks have been really, really miserable. And you've heard me try to do things there at the shul and also at here online. I'm trying to read things, and it's been real hard. It's getting to the point where I just cannot read things off a screen or off of a piece of paper quickly and easily. I can often decipher what's there eventually, but it's been so bad that I just can't. I really can't continue and expect you guys to, expect my fumbling around. Anyways, there's supposed to be a big fix next Wednesday in my surgery. There's extra work that needs to be done in my eyes, and my left eye is going to get that job done next Wednesday, and then sometime following, my right eye is going to get the similar treatment. I don't think it's going to be the same treatment, but similar treatment. My right eye is actually still improving, so they're not talking about going back and doing an additional major surgery like I'm going to do with the left. So, make a short story long. That's my story. Okay, so let me get over to our page. Oops, wrong thing. There we are. Okay. And this, of course, is haLakhah 1, Intro to haLakhah. And if you're not familiar with pronouncing Hebrew, there's a number of different conventions as to how you would pronounce that or spell out that sound in Hebrew. Because haLakhah is spelled with a chaf, and and that's a sound the way it's spelled in Hebrew. So Now, of course, there's no such sound that occurs naturally in English, and so there's a number of approximations that people use. None of them are wrong. All of them function as long as you know what the marks mean. So let me do a quick explanation on that. So for the chaf in haLakhah, you see that I use a KH for that. And over the years, I've come to think that this is the best way of representing that sound with a KH written in English. However, that's not the only way of doing it. Some people use CH, that's acceptable. Some people use H with a line under it, or H with a dot under it, CH with a line under it. Um, it's kind of like, how many different ways can you spell Hanukkah? Yeah, haLakhah can do the same thing with how you do with the chaf sound. Um, so don't be surprised if you see a number of different ways of spelling that. As long as you can catch the clue that it's supposed to be, then how it's spelled is not so much. It's how it sounds that counts, not how it reads. So that's just a quick explanation. Okay. Um, and so let's go ahead and take a look at our handout here. By the way, the handout should be published on the website. If not, it'll show up shortly. And let's see. So what is haLakhah? Literally, haLakhah means the walk. Okay. Holech is the verb, or halach is the infinitive of the verb to walk. Okay. And it means actually to walk. so so ha in the ha at the beginning of a word, when it's a prefix, means the. So halach is the walk, or okay. haLakhah is the feminine singular version, which is the noun the walk. Okay, which is used as the noun the walk. So haLakhah is what it means. Now, let me explain to you. Normally, what I like to do is hunt down all the verses, and in our online class, have all the verses laid out. So all we do is read them through. However, I had such a fit of trying to just get this reviewed and put together in some sort of a fashion. I just wasn't able to. The difficulty I'm running into is my eyes are getting tired with regards to seeing contrast. And so, in very short order, the text that you're reading on the page will just be a blur. And it gets to the point where I have to work at it to even go and search for a verse, copy it, and then paste it here. Um, it was, make a short story long. I think what I'm going to do is when I get back to restarting this thing, I'll restart from this beginning point with all the verses intact. But in the meantime, get your version of this on the website, and we will resume with this when I get back to it. So plan on next week. I'm not going to be here. 2 weeks from now should be okay. Um, I tend to recover relatively well after a couple days, and even with the crazier times where I had to spend 4 days with my face pointed downward because it's I needed the positioning with the gas in my eye to heal the retina tear, the loose retina parts. Um, I don't think I have quite that problem, so I may not have to do that, but I should be back in 2 weeks. Okay, so make a short story long. Let me just talk you through what these verses are. You can look them up on your own, or you can wait till 2 weeks and get the full version, God willing. Okay, so all these verses here are just talking about the walk. Genesis, where God tells Moses, walk with me. Okay, Leviticus, to walk with God. Deuteronomy, to walk. Amos. Um, Amos 3:3 is probably the more famous of this, only because this is the verse from which we get the term haLakhah. Um, and the out of Amos, the verse is, "How can two walk together unless they are in agreement?" Okay, so haLakhah infers that we are walking with God, and two cannot walk together. The implication is kind of like walking step to step, side by side, walking at the same pace, the same, same time, same rhythm, uh, and so on, so that you're you call that lockstep. In lockstep, you're together with that. So how can we walk with God if we're not in lockstep in conformity to what He wants us to be doing? So that's the formative picture for the development of the term haLakhah. Okay, the others are just invocations to walk with God. Not just, I mean, those. Okay. Um, it doesn't, it's important. God wants us to walk with Him. The Amos citation kind of explains the picture. Hebrew is a very pictorial language, and so a lot of concepts are done in word pictures. Okay. For example, we are just started in Exodus in our reading, the yearly reading cycle. And there's a lot of discussion through this first part of Exodus about God rescuing Israel with a strong arm. Okay, um, and that word in Hebrew is roah, which is the same word that we use in for the shank bone on the Seder plate, the Passover Seder plate. So so basically, it's kind of like the forearm, and it's a symbol of. It's a word picture of someone with a sword or implement of war in their hand with their arm raised up, just about to deliver the killing blow. So that's the picture what God means when He says He's going to rescue us with a strong arm. Okay, so word pictures are important. Okay, so um, okay, so next is another definition is okay. Okay, this is why. Hold on just a second. Let me change visual. There we go. Okay, judgment. God, Yah, Yehovah in Hebrew. Um, okay. Um, okay. The name of God, Yehovah, according to tradition, it actually comes from Kabbalah. His name is designed in two parts. Yah, meaning judgment, and Ve, meaning mercy. Okay. This is a Kabbalistic idea. Okay. Um, but that's a concept. I'm not going to say it's the concept, but it's a concept of the name of God. And you have verses that are listed. You know what? I like my other read. I'm going back and forth nowadays between my 3.0 reading glasses and a magnifying glass. And right this moment, the magnifying glass is working better. Okay, and so these are from Genesis 1:1. Yehovah is there. Exodus 3. We just read this last week. Okay, often translated, usually translated as I am, but literally it's in future tense. Eye asher eye. Okay, I will be what I will be. Um, and so this is our God. Okay, not only the God who is a creator and the God who is, um, as opposed to the gods of the Egyptians, as opposed to the Greek gods and all the other gods of all the people, all the other gods are pretty much static. They exist. If you want anything from them, you have to chase them. You have to appease them. You have to get them to notice you. Okay? But our God, Yehovah, has already told us that we are the apple of His eye. In other words, He's always looking on us and loving us. We don't have to invoke him or coerce him into doing things to help us. All we got to do is ask because he loves us. And he also promises that he will move to help us even before we think to ask, which is really cool. Okay, so again, Exodus 3:15, God identifies himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If there's ever any questions as to which God he's talking about, okay? Um, Man, Shlisha, um, Adam, where am I? Okay, Eshiv, oh boy, I'm messing that up. Okay, Ish or Isha, sorry, Isha, man or woman, okay? The one who was, who made us. Man was not complete without the woman, okay? Um, the woman was a helper. I like the King's English, but most people don't understand it. God says he will make a helper meet for him. And that's not meat that he gets to chew on, but rather in the Old English understanding is someone of equal stature, someone of equal capability. Um, if you're into Shakespeare, if you're into Middle English, um, you know, if you met a stranger on the road and you discovered that you were of equal levels in social standing, you would say that you were well met. Okay, so we're of equal position. Okay, um, in the King's English, that translates as is that woman is to be equal or complementary as pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Okay. Another definition: a Jew, literally a Hebrew, Ivri, which means literally a one who is passing through or crossing over. That's the original nickname for the Jewish people. Um, Jew, of course, is comes from the name Judah, Yehudah. Um, but it was during the Babylonian exile that it became fashionable to call all people of whatever tribe they were from as Jews. Okay, um, even Paul identified himself as a Jew, but he's from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, so and this definition, okay, a descendant of Jacob or Israel, Israelites from the uh, tribe of Judah or the territory of Judea, by extension, all Israelites, such as in Esther 8, verse 16, Mordecai, a Benjamin, and a Jew. Okay, so um, just understand that's a clinical definition, which basically means that if you're a Gentile, you're not a Jew. You are part of Israel, but you are not ethnically a Jew. I think we covered this in Galatians well enough. So let me just end it right there on that. Okay. Israel, while not ethnically Jewish, even Gentiles are considered part of Israel by adoption, such as in Romans 8:14, by ingrafting Romans 11:17, birthright Galatians 3:26, citizenship Ephesians 2:19. So in other words, you belong to the tribe. You're not literally physically of the tribe, but you are now inserted into the tribe. Um, and what does Torah say about the stranger who comes near? Okay, they're to be treated as one who is native born. So there should be no issue about that. And I threw this one in just to make Gail happy. See also Yeshayahu. That's the book of Isaiah 56, 1 through 8. This is talking about the Gentile who comes to walk in God's ways will um, will be given a position even better than those who were born of Israel, even to the point of being given positions in the priesthood. Okay, and that's pretty heady stuff. So, um, and basically, your love for God and your desire to walk in His ways will determine how far close or how far along you're going to get in that arrangement. Okay. Um, okay. In order to make this big enough for me to read, okay, where is my thing? There you go. Relation of man to God. Okay. Creator created, Genesis 1. Um, Sustainer sustained, Exodus 16. Guide and follower, Exodus 13. Father and son, Jeremiah 31. And friend, John 15. Okay. So the attributes of our relationship to God um, covers several different aspects. And so we are um, to realize that we have several different aspects. We're going to see this quite a lot in the interactions between Moses and God as we're reading through Exodus, because Moses and God had many interactions. Some were really friendly, some of them were a little tense. Okay, but so the relationship between God and Moses runs the gamut of you know, adverse parties to good friends, and that's how our relationship with God will be. Okay, there are times when we're upset, we're frustrated, um, you know, and yet and we can might be upset with something or upset that God hasn't done something that you think He should have done, um, or He's doing something that you think that He shouldn't be doing. Okay, one of the keys I want you guys to consider as we're reading through Exodus right now is that um, except for the one incident where Moses misrepresented God, God did not get upset with Moses to the point of punishing him except for that one incident. God appreciates our honesty even when we're upset. Okay? And by being honest with Him when we're upset, we're showing to Him that we count His relationship the most valuable of all, because we're not afraid to show who we really are and what's going on in our hearts and our minds. Okay. The duties of man to God. And this is, and what we do with haLakhah is all about this, our duties of man to God. Okay? And you'll have to look up those citations. I will, God willing, my eyes are back in my head in 2 weeks. I'll redo this with all the citations in place, and you can peruse those at you as you will. Okay. Um, so haLakhah applies to everyday life. This is how you live out your life in a manner that pleases a holy God, doing the things that our holy God tells us that we need to be doing in order to be holy people. Okay, so that's why it's called the walk, and walking together with God, meaning that we are in step with what He wants us to be doing. Okay, rabbinic authority. Much of what we're going to learn comes from rabbinic sources, various different rabbinic sources. Why? Because a lot of the descriptions of how we walk with God is traditional. Now, this is where we're going to learn that sometimes tradition is okay, so tradition's good, and sometimes it's not. And so we're going to be covering those on a case-by-case basis throughout our study of haLakhah. I am going to be giving you the traditional, usually orthodox point of view of what haLakhah is going to be asking of us to do when it comes to walking in the commands of God. Now, you'll notice that some of it is simply culture. and some of it is commandment. Sometimes it's both, in various different degrees of both. Okay, but as we go, we'll talk about that. And if it's scripture and it works, I would recommend you consider um, doing haLakhah as recommended. At least consider doing it. Give it a try. You may like it. Um, but just because it's tradition doesn't mean you absolutely have to. However, I find that tradition in many ways helps us to do the commandments in a way that has been thought through and considered and has existed for a good amount of time um, without serious challenge that causes other changes. So consider that rabbinic authority, rabbis consider themselves to be authoritative. We would consider them to be suggestive. Okay. Um, However, again, it's worth considering what they say because you may find it's something good to do. I always like to bring up the example of keeping the Sabbath. Okay, well, keeping the Sabbath is a biblical commandment, but how we keep the Sabbath has a lot of tradition and rabbinic authority in it. For example, there's a lot of interest and discussion about lighting the Sabbath candles 18 minutes before actual sundown. Um, the reason for that is I've been told is in order to create a buffer in case you're late getting it started, or if you're in a position where it's impossible to see the exact sunset. Think about it. If you live down at the bottom of a really steep valley that runs north and south, if you're looking at the actual physical disappearing of the sun behind something, your sundown's going to be about 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the summer, in high summer. So that doesn't work well. So you go with an artificial horizon version of sundown, and you need to consult the charts and stuff like that for that. Um, but the idea, and so that's marking your timing for when you start your Sabbath. But the tradition is to light candles just before sundown, 18 minutes according to tradition, um, to mark the beginning of Sabbath. And the idea is the lighting of the candles are the last bit of work you're authorized to do before Sabbath arrives, and you are now enjoined to not work. Um, and for us, it's always been a very pleasurable moment when the candles go on, and whether it's my wife or the girls that are doing the blessing over the candles, um, it's very relaxing and creating of peace to know that the Sabbath has arrived and we are now allowed to fully enjoy all the benefits of Sabbath. Um, so stuff like that. We'll get into that as we get into the details. Um, but and so the habit of lighting candles comes from rabbinic authority or from tradition. Um, so what is rabbinic authority? It's legend or legend of should be legend or oral Torah. Excuse me. Okay, and the legends are the stories of the rabbis over the centuries. Oral Torah are the instructions of the rabbis, um, and they treat it as if it's just as valuable and binding as God's written Torah. Messianic position is to not accept oral Torah as binding. It can be instructive, but it's not binding, and that's a major departure we have compared to rabbinic authority. There's a couple of verses to look up. Okay, there is a Jewish halakhic statement that Torah and haLakhah must be reinterpreted in every generation. And I thought that was an interesting concept. At one point, I thought that's really dangerous. But on the other point, maybe it's not so bad. Okay, um, because um, great example on this is according to uh, Orthodox tradition and teaching, one is not allowed to use electrical appliances on Sabbath. Okay, their reasoning is that um, if you flick a light switch, there's a little spark behind the plate. When the contacts come together, there's a little spark. That's fire, and therefore that's forbidden. Um, so the Orthodox make the basically two things. One's not so prevalent here, but in other locations it's more prevalent. Um, one is you turn on your lights and turn on whatever you're going to need to have on before sundown on Friday afternoon, and then um, then you just leave them off on until it's time to turn them off. Which leaves you, of course, a dilemma that if you're sitting around the dinner table, having your Sabbath dinner, or still reading through the Sabbath Siddur, and someone accidentally turns off the light, you know, you either sit in the dark and do the best you can, or um, I've heard there was one guy who just got saying, "Boy, it's dark in here. Boy, it's dark in here," and then finally someone in the family would get up and turn on the light, but he'd be okay with that, even though he's the one instructing them to do it. So go figure. Okay. However, if you're a conservative Jew, conservative Judaism looked at the same issue and says, "Nah, that's not it." Okay, because an electrical spark is not fire. You need three items to make fire. Okay, you need oxygen, you need heat, and you need fuel. Okay, you don't need oxygen to create a spark. Okay, a spark does create a heat, but a tiny, tiny bit. And you don't burn something when there's a spark. Okay, yeah, eventually over the years, your contact's going to wear down a little bit, but um, the point being, it doesn't burn in the traditional sense like a fire. Okay, so the conservative point of view is um, uh, turning on an electrical appliance on Sabbath is not work, is not kindling a fire, therefore it's not work and permissible. So there's room for discussion here, um, and so as we get to those parts of the Sabbath, we'll get into more detail on that. But that's sort of just to give you a quick overview. And then finally, there are levels of haLakhah. Okay, uh, one is called haLakhah, which is the biblical commandments with rabbinic help. uh, there is Nusach, which is a broader traditional style, like the difference between Ashkenaz tradition and Sephardic tradition. Ashkenaz is the Northern European Jewish tradition. Sephardic is the Mediterranean range of Judaism, has some different traditions. Also, Sephardic is very large in South America, Sephardic tradition. And if you even want to go even further, you also have Mizrahi, which is Eastern, and it's more the Iranian, Yemenite kind of Jewish tradition. Okay, and then okay, so haLakhah is the broad category. Nusach is a somewhat variated differences in the traditions, and then you have Mincha, which is custom or local tradition, okay, local habits. And this is where there's a lot more flexibility. Um, for example, we conduct a rather traditional prayer service, but not everything in that prayer service is strictly from tradition. Okay, we've made some alterations, we've made some adjustments, we've included a lot of Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, and of course acknowledging Yeshua as our Messiah within our prayer service. You're not going to find that in an Orthodox version. So that's our mincha. That's our local tradition. Local tradition can also changing around the order of the prayer service or changing certain things. You may have, it might be a wider tradition to use a particular melody while chanting some of the prayers. And there might be a local tradition, a local habit of using a different melody. Okay. And in fact, every cantor, the worship leader, and every rabbi pretty much has their own set of melodies, cantorials. Um, and so don't be surprised if you go to a different shul and they're singing something entirely different. Or they'll break out and do something different than what we're used to. That's okay. That's local tradition, and that's perfectly acceptable. Okay. And as we get through haLakhah, we'll discuss these differences as they pop up, because there are differences, especially in congregation services and congregation functions. There are local differences, there are um, general differences, and then there's also biblical statement to follow. So um, we'll cover that. Okay. Um, that's actually what I was planning on doing today. And sorry I didn't have stuff together to read right out of the text directly. Oops, did the wrong thing again. There we are. Okay, let me see if I can read this. Shalom Seth. Shalom Ruchama. Shem, good to see you. Gloria, good to see you. Gail. Boy, what a happy meeting we have here. Okay. Great. Any other questions, comments, or rebukes as far as haLakhah is concerned? This is just the basic hello, introducing you to the subject kind of a thing. Like I said, I'm going to be dark next week just because I'm having eye surgery next Wednesday morning. And it's going to be fairly involved. They're going to get into my eye and play around a little bit. So I'm definitely not going to be in a condition to conduct a meeting. Okay. So if there's anything on your mind you want to mention or ask, go ahead and mention. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this. Okay, sorry. Shalom. Anything else to mention, go ahead. We'll start closing this down. So if you want to add one other thing, or if you've got a question, comment, or rebuke, first session on this, so oh, Shimon, cool. Cool, good to see you. Okay, so let me finish my YouTube shtick here. This is Simchat Yeshua Messianic Fellowship. That's spelled SIMCHATYESHUA. You can find our website at simchatyeshua.org. For as long as we have it, there's a Facebook page, Simchat Yeshua. There should be a copy of the handout we just read through on the website, posted for you guys to download, or it might be on the Facebook page. One of the things we have to do is decide what we're going to do with our Facebook. If we want to keep it or move on to something else. Anyways, also you can, if you like this channel, if you like the congregation, you want to donate something to help things along, go to our website. There is a method for making a donation there, and if if you like what you see, you like what you hear, you like what's going on, be sure to help it along, and we'll greatly appreciate any help we can get. Okay, nothing else going on. I'll begin to shut down now. Um, Again, there's a delay from the time I'm talking to the time you hear, so um, okay. There's a delay, and so I'm going to let it go silent for about 2 minutes just to make sure whatever I said gets finished in your ears. And so we'll go ahead and close off here. God bless you guys. Shalom. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Remind me to announce to the congregation that we're going to be closed for the Wednesday night haLakhah class next Wednesday. Okay. Um, and God willing, I'll be back, and it'll give me a whole week to heal up and get my eye back. Hopefully, God willing, that'll happen. Okay, so shalom. God bless you, and take care. We'll see you Shabbat. All right, that'll do. Shalom, kids.